Today's lesson in art focuses on a very important technique for students to know called a one-point perspective, where objects are showing distance in space by getting smaller at a vanishing point. This lesson will also focus on geometric shapes. It will focus on the colors of the color wheel, and we will be using a watercolor resist technique. To get started for this lesson, you're going to need a white piece of paper, a ruler, a pencil, crayons in both the primary colors, red, blue, and yellow, crayons in the secondary colors, orange, purple, and green, a Sharpie for outlining, a white crayon, and some watercolor paint. Go ahead and gather your materials and let's get started. To get started on this lesson, we're going to begin by drawing our 6 geometric shapes. You can draw them wherever you would like on the paper. You want to kind of think about them going around in a circle around the paper and having them spaced out, knowing that they're going to all end at a vanishing point. Your shapes can be different than mine, but before we draw those shapes, we need to find out where the vanishing point is. So we're going to take our paper and fold it in half, one direction, open it up, and fold it in half the opposite direction. And when you open it up, you should have a T on your paper. And where those lines intersect is going to be your vanishing point. And I'm working on a horizontal layout for my paper. I'm going to begin with my first shape over here, and that is going to be a hexagon. You could do an octagon or something else. A hexagon has 6 sides, so when I draw it, I like to start at the top. 1, 2, 3. And then I think of it being kind of symmetrical, and it copies on the other side. 1, 2, 3. You want your shapes to be about the size of 2 to 3 fingers around. My next shape is going to be a heart, and that's in the middle. To the right of my paper, I'm going to come up with a triangle. Down at the bottom here, I'm going to do like a square or a rectangle. I decided to make that a rectangle. Down at the middle, I'm going to have let's see, what else should I do? A star. Maybe I should do the star. And when I do a star, you can do the star by drawing an upside down V, making your diagonal line, going horizontally across, and then connecting these 2 points. You have to erase the inside though. So I have my star shape, my rectangle shape, my triangle, my heart, and my hexagon. Over here, I'm going to come up with a circle. So now that I have my 6 shapes, I'm going to connect them all to the vanishing point, and this is where I need my ruler. Okay, so again, you could have come up with different geometric shapes. You could have used a square, you could have done a rhombus, you could have gotten as creative as you want. Keep it simple though, because the vanishing point is going to be where each corner of your shape is going to connect depending on the view of it, and you'll see. So here we know is going to be right in that middle where the lines intersect is going to be my vanishing point. I'm going to take my ruler and let's start with the heart. So I'm going to start simply from the middle of the heart and just connect to that vanishing point going down. To the left of the heart, I have to move my ruler to connect to the vanishing point. And to the side, and move my ruler to connect to the vanishing point. So now I have my heart, and you can kind of see it going down to that vanishing point. You're gonna take the sides, the corners, the points, and they're all gonna connect into that vanishing point. And so if you caught on, the ruler has to always intersect with that vanishing point, and then from there you can move your ruler to connect with your shape. So the top of the triangle, I connect to my vanishing point. The bottom of the triangle, I connect to the vanishing point, and over to the side. And I had to lift that back up. I connect to the vanishing point. So I have 2 shapes done. Hopefully you're doing great and following along with me. Let's work on the rectangle. This one will be pretty easy. I'm gonna start with the top right, putting my ruler on the vanishing point and moving it up to the top right corner and connecting in. Top left, moving it to the vanishing point, always checking. And then my bottom right, if I draw this line right here, it's going through the rectangle, so I don't need to do that because the rectangle's in the front and it would be kind of invisible behind the shape. So I don't need to do this bottom right corner. My bottom left, I'm gonna connect with my pencil, make sure my ruler's lined up at that vanishing point. And now I have 3 shapes that are going back in space, showing that distance at that vanishing point. Now the star, there's a lot of different points on it. So let's start at the top. That connects right to the vanishing point, easy peasy. Going to the left, lining it up to my vanishing point, there we go. To the right, lining it up, there we go. Now let's look at the right. The bottom left, if I go and connect my vanishing point, it's gonna go through the top. So I don't need to do it. If I go to the bottom right, again, it's gonna go through, so I don't need to do it. So I'm only doing the top view from the way this angle looks. If you look at the example I showed in the beginning, it was just the side, and I didn't need to do this top point because it would have just connected here. This one would have just gone through, and same with the hexagon. So depending on your shape and making sure that it connects with that vanishing point, you might not have to do every single corner. Let's move on to the circle. There aren't any corners there, but I'm going to line my ruler up with my vanishing point at the bottom of my circle. And then I'm gonna move it to the top, getting my pencil lined up and it lining up to the vanishing point there. So there's the circle. My hexagon, similar to the star, has a lot more points, has a lot more corners. So let's start with the closest one to the vanishing point right here. It's all lined up. Moving down, I'm at the vanishing point and corner. Moving around to the hexagon. Now let's move to this side. I can see it's overlapping or going through, so I'm gonna skip it. The top, overlapping, going through, so I'm gonna skip it. And the top right, I can add just a sliver going into that vanishing point. So right now we have all of our shapes geometric shapes drawn, and our lines connecting to the vanishing point. From here, we're gonna take our Sharpie marker and we're going to outline the shapes and the lines. So everything we did with pencil is going to connect into that center point. Okay, so I have everything outlined in Sharpie, and it's going back in the and showing distance. When you draw your geometric shapes, that they are spaced out from that vanishing point. If you had them super close here, you're not gonna get this distance in this space, which we're going to also use a different element of art called value, where we have the darkness and the lightness of the color kind of carrying through. And if you don't have a lot of space, you're not gonna get a good value shade going on. So now that we've got our geometric shapes, we are going to use our crayons. Remember I said we needed the primary colors, which are red, blue, and yellow, and the secondary colors, orange, purple, and green. So I'm gonna start with the red at the top, and I'm starting with a primary color. And I'm gonna just color this heart solid. So I'm applying pressure to my crayon, but I'm not applying it so hard that I break the crayon. But I want it to be nice and solid, okay? You can change direction. So I have a nice solid red crayon heart. And from the vanishing point, I'm gonna have a solid red by applying pressure, and then it's gonna get lighter and lighter and lighter to where I'm by the heart and it's almost gone. So pressing hard, pressing lighter, pressing lighter, so light and barely touching, and so light that it's almost white, okay? You can always go back and darken it, but you can't erase the crayon and make it lighter. So you wanna kinda do your very best to start dark and be able to get that light. Now, I wanna think over here, let's say I have blue. So if I skip a shape and I have blue, red and blue are primary colors. What color, when I mix red and blue together, does it make? So what does red and blue mixed together make? Purple. So I know I'm gonna have purple there. So repeating just like I did with the heart, outlining the triangle shape or whatever shape you have, coloring it in solid, applying good pressure, not enough to break that crayon, and then going from the vanishing point, pressing hard again. And I'm doing about a finger space of that hard applied pressure, and then I start getting a little lighter, and then I'm barely brushing the paper. And then I can kind of step back and look at the value and say, you know what, I need a little bit more right here. And go back and get it a little darker. And you've got that value scale there. We already know that this one's going to be blue, coloring the blue in solid. And repeating over here, solid, lighter, lighter, barely touching. And then step away and I look at that value and say, okay, maybe I need a little bit more in that medium value. And see if I can get a little bit solid in that dark. That dark you want to be at the darkest purple, the darkest red, and the darkest blue you could get. Looking at the star. So I'm gonna have my third primary color, which is yellow. I'm gonna think if blue and yellow mixed together in the middle, what would I have? It would be green. So I know my star is gonna be green. right, I have that solid by the vanishing point. Going to my medium value and pressing lighter and so light. And going back and getting a little bit more of that darker green. We already know over here is going to be yellow. I have that nice and solid. Get that solid yellow, medium value. Oops, I had a little blue on my crayon, that's okay. And getting lighter and lighter. So I had a little mark that happens sometimes with your lighter colors if they get messed up from the darker ones. And yellow's a really hard one to do because it's overall light. So I did as much as I could with the dark value there. Now I have to ask myself when I mix yellow and red primary colors, what are the secondary colors? The secondary color for yellow and red is orange. So coloring in a solid orange. Solid orange by the vanishing point. Medium value. Light value. Oh, so light. And then going back and getting that dark value. I've got all my values colored now. And from here, we're gonna make some contrast and incorporate our watercolor resist. So we're gonna get our paint and our white crayon to add some magic. Okay, so now that we have our shapes, for our magic resist activity, we're gonna take a white crayon, and these shapes kind of reminded me of coming out of outer space. So I used my white crayon and I made some stars and swirls and spirals and dots and then painted it black. You might have another idea, but you're gonna draw with your magic crayon some shapes or lines, whatever you think, all around your paper. Okay, so you can't notice or can't tell because I have my invisible white crayon all over. So I'm gonna get my watercolor paint, and in order for this to work, I'm gonna need water, and I want to water down my paper with some watered down black. You have to be careful because black is a super strong color, as you can tell. And already, and I don't want to just paint over my value because that light value of crayon would end up black in those empty spots. So I'm trying to paint around the shape just to really help them pop. So now I'm just gonna I just got some plain water because that black is so strong to kind of spread out. Water, a little bit of black, just a dot. Carefully going around that shape. So you can see all my shapes pop out. And here on the top, I came up with an idea of writing my name, because when I wrote my name in Sharpie on my first example, the black paint kind of popped it or covered it, and it wasn't very vibrant. But you can really see it now. So I'm just gonna go around every area with the black and fill my paper up. Take your time and complete your picture. I can't wait to see what you create. Okay, so I am all done, and that white crayon really pops against the black paint. And the reason why is crayon has wax in it. And wax creates kind of a protection on your paper. And so when you apply water, the water is resisting the paint. Almost like when you put sunscreen on your body, the sun is resisting the lotion and you don't get burned. So we have created today, and I'm sure some of you are still painting, geometric shapes that are showing distance through our 1-point perspective technique. We colored our geometric shapes in the color wheel with the primary colors and the secondary colors. And then we added a fun watercolor resist. Thanks for creating art with me, and I can't wait to see what you create. See you next time.